Hi YouTubers, it is Michele Cuke, yours truly, with another video on prenatal vitamins, protein, and iron in pregnancy. So let me start off with questions that you might get as a midwife. Someone might come to you and say, which is the best prenatal vitamin? And I try to share principles rather than tell them we'll try this brand or that brand, because there's so many new companies that are coming up with prenatal vitamins that are good, and I might not know some of the ones that are out there. But first of all, remind the client that it is best to get your nutrients from food. All right, so you want to plan a balanced diet, have all your food groups, eat planned meals, and plan to get your nutrients that way. Okay, here's a couple of things to keep in mind when selecting a prenatal vitamin. We want a whole food prenatal vitamin. We would like to make sure it doesn't have artificial ingredients, synthetic things like that. If you can get it organic, that's even better. We want folate instead of folic acid. Folic acid is synthetic and folate is better absorbed. And we want to make sure we get a prenatal vitamin without iron in it. And the reason for that is that calcium impedes the absorption of iron. So when you buy a prenatal vitamin that has calcium in it and iron, you might not be getting the appropriate amount of iron. So get a prenatal vitamin without iron, and then you can get your iron separately. So those are some of the principles that I share, and then they can do their due diligence and find and research different products that can fit that. I'll mention a few that I'm not personally familiar with. I've never taken them, but I've read sources that they're good. Garden of Life, New Chapter Perfect Prenatal Vitamin, Vitamin Code Raw. So those are a few that I'll throw out there. I don't get any compensation for promoting them, and I don't have personal experience with them. So you would want to study and see, but we want whole food. We want the folate instead of the folic acid. We don't want iron in there. We want to avoid synthetic ingredients and artificial colors and things like that. So we could research, you could research a good prenatal vitamin. I was also told to avoid probiotics in pregnancy. And the preceptor, one of the preceptors I was working with was encouraging that. It just seems like it would be healthy for the microbiome. But this particular expert, who was someone who specialized in nutrition for pregnant mothers, said that probiotics is fermented foods where they ferment the food and they use bacteria to break down the sugars, and sometimes you can get bad bacteria in that. So fermented foods is something you would want to avoid. And probiotics, I believe, I believe she said is associated with some negative effects on the baby. So that's something that I heard on a YouTube video from a nutritionist. And so I will share it with you. I don't think that it would hurt someone to not take a probiotic in pregnancy. So if there's a potential negative outcome, then we don't have to have that. We can eat foods and get, a healthy gut that way. So another area that is common, I think I'm going to go to iron first before I go to protein. Let me just talk a little bit about iron. Iron can be constipating, and so a lot of people don't like to take it. The good news is that if you have normal blood labs, your hemoglobin is good, your hematocrit is good, then you don't really need to take an iron supplement in your first trimester. In your second and third trimester, your needs for iron doubles. And so some people may find this difficult and want to maybe supplement that way. So here's some good things. Dark green leafy vegetables have iron. So you can eat dark green leafy vegetables and they are full of fiber. So it will help with the constipation. You can make smoothies with them, which I think is a good option if you want, a cup or two of greens. I think to sit down and eat 2 cups of greens would be hard, but in a smoothie, it wouldn't be so bad. Another gentler form of iron is it's bisglycinate, Bisglycinate. It's a form that is easier to digest. My understanding, ferrous sulfate, ferrous fulminate, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Fumarate, those forms can be constipating, but biglycinate is supposed to be gentle. I've also heard a slow release is a little easier and you can avoid the constipation as well. Also, taking iron, you can take it every other day or every third day. And I heard it's better absorbed that way. So you don't have to take iron every day. So that is good. What's recommended by the powers that be, ACOG, right? 27 milligrams are recommended. So maybe you can take 40 milligrams every other day or every third day. And that will should help to ward off some of that problems with constipation. Again, I'll reiterate that calcium can interfere with the absorption of iron, so you don't want to have it with milk or cheese or anything that's high in calcium. Also, tea and coffee can impair absorption of, of, of iron. Vitamin C can enhance the absorption. So when you take your iron, you could take it with something with vitamin C like orange juice. And my understanding is don't take it at the same time you take your prenatal vitamins. And by now you know the answer for that. And that's because the calcium in it can interfere with the absorption. So take it away from not at the same time as your prenatal vitamin, and take it with something that's high in vitamin C. And you don't need it until later trimesters. So that's my spill on iron. So last, I want to look at protein. This has always been a little bit of a problematic for me because I feel that the recommendation is too much protein. And I'm into fitness, and so I'm around that mentality. Anytime you want muscle growth, building muscle mass, there's always this demand for more protein, and I think sometimes we get too much. So most of the written material was saying you need 80 grams of protein a day if you're pregnant. Some went up to 100 grams. This nutritionist who specialized in that said 60 grams. So I was like, that's doable. To tell someone to have 80 grams is pretty challenging. Another way to look at it is 1.1 gram per kilogram of weight. So you would weigh yourself and then figure it out mathematically how much protein you would need. It's going to be around 60. So one of the things to keep in mind is that a protein deficiency is rare. So if you eat a regular diet, you can keep your food down. You're not on some type of a rigid diet. You'll be fine, more than likely. If you're raw food or vegan, like myself, you may have to be a little bit more careful. Although I've been a vegan for many, many years. I've never had any problems. I was vegetarian through my pregnancy. I was not vegan. I kept craving those subs, so I had cheese. But there are many vegans that do fine. So it's probably exaggerated how much protein that you need, but there definitely is some negative side effects to having too much. It can cause the mother to have gestational diabetes. It can have the child to be more prone later in life, to having issues like obesity or problems with insulin sensitivity, which is, diabetes. So there's no advantage to having too much of protein. You need not too much and not too little, and most of us have plenty. So I may vary a little bit with other people I've worked with. Their protein, 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 So we want adequate protein, just to give you an idea. Because if someone told me have 80 grams of protein, I really wouldn't know how to process that in terms of what to eat. Now we've got Chat GPT and we've got different websites that can probably help do a menu for you. But just to give you a little idea, 3 eggs has 25 grams of protein. 3 to 4 ounces of cooked meat, poultry, or fish has 25 grams. 1 1/2 cup of cooked lentils or beans has 25 grams. Tofu, a half a cup, has 20 grams. A half a cup of tempeh, 15 grams. A cup of edamame, that green soybean, 18 grams. A cup of quinoa, 8 grams. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, 7 to 8 grams. 3 tablespoons of hemp seed, 10 grams. A fourth cup of some kind of nut or seed has between 6 and 8 grams. A cup of spinach, 5 and 6 grams. A cup of soy milk, 8 grams. If you have some of those supplements like blue green algae, and you have a scoop, that will have between 4 and 8 grams. A scoop of pea protein, 15 to 25 grams. A scoop of hemp protein, 10 to 15 grams. So that just throws out a few things so that you can kind of figure out in your mind or create a picture of what you need to eat to get 60 grams of protein. So protein is important. Deficiencies are rare. You don't want too much. So the key really is a balanced diet. You have fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, and some type of protein source. I'm a little biased because I'm vegetarian, but meat, if you eat meat, get clean meat. Be careful with your fishes and the mercury. Be very picky about making sure that you get clean, healthy meat and dairy products. Okay, so that should do it on prenatal vitamins, iron supplements, and protein intake.